In 2025 alone, more than 10 major flight incidents have shaken global aviation from the United States to Russia to India and beyond. Planes have caught fire in Colorado, dove sharply to avoid mid-air collisions over California, crashed in Russia's Amur region, and tragically fell moments after takeoff in India. Yet most people have no idea how close we've come to catastrophe. The question is no longer if it'll happen again, but when. In July 26, 2025, Flight AA3023, Boeing 737 MAX 8 bound for Miami roared down the runway at Denver International Airport. Fires suddenly burst near the landing gear. Flames, smoke, panic. On board, 173 passengers and 6 crew members. A routine departure turned into an emergency within seconds. The pilots aborted takeoff. Evacuation slides deployed. Families helped children slide down into the abyss of the tarmac. Airport responders tackled the blaze. Everyone escaped except one passenger who sustained minor injuries. Yet this was more than a crisis, it was a warning. The NTSB's preliminary findings revealed improperly installed parts and suspect fluid leaks in the landing gear mechanics. Maintenance logs were inconsistent. Critical inspections had been skipped. Flight attendants transformed into first responders. Crews executed evacuation drills in real time. A malfunction revealed how fragile the line between operational normalcy and disaster really is. Most passengers had no idea how severe the danger had been until that moment. There were no alarms, no warning until the blaze. Seconds shaped into tragedies. This wasn't desperation, it was systems failing. Maintenance corners cut months earlier. Faulty gear servicing. No red flags flagged. And yet, this time, humanity and training caught the fall. This isn't a story of chaos. It's a story of negligence, avoided just in time. In 2025 alone, more than 10 major flight incidents have rattled global aviation from Colorado to California, Russia to India. Planes are catching fire, diving sharply, or crashing shortly after takeoff. Most people don't realize how close we've come to catastrophe. The question is no longer if it'll happen again, but when. Here's the moment that shook Southern California. Southwest Airlines Flight 1496, a short domestic flight from Burbank to Las Vegas, was climbing steadily on the morning of July 25th, when everything changed. Without warning, the aircraft made a sudden, brutal descent from 14,100 feet to 13,625 feet in under a minute. Crew yelled. Passengers cried. 2 flight attendants were injured, thrown from their jump seats. Items flew. Frames shifted. Fear rippled across every aisle. The descent wasn't due to turbulence or system failure, it was deliberate. Multiple pilots reported seeing a military aircraft crossing their path. Southwest confirmed the plane had sharply dropped altitude to avoid a mid-air collision with a U.S. Air Force jet conducting training nearby. The FAA and Southwest investigators launched immediate inquiries. Why hadn't the airspace been contained? Why wasn't the flight path coordinated? Radar logs revealed gaps in communication between air traffic control sectors. Stressful, split-second decisions shaped the outcome. The training was insufficient for such scenarios. Flight 1496 landed safely in Las Vegas, but the emotional scars remained. Passengers described seconds that felt like hours. Faces turning pale, overhead bins. On July 24, 2025, in the remote Siberian town of Yeysk, Russia, Angara Airlines Flight 967 prepared for what should have been a routine takeoff. The aircraft, a twin-turboprop, Antonov An-24. The mission, transporting 29 passengers and crew, most of them everyday workers heading home. But that flight never lifted off. Just seconds after the engines roared to life, a critical hydraulic failure disabled the aircraft's nose gears steering. The pilot tried to abort takeoff, but it was already too late. The plane skidded off the wet runway, tore through a barrier, and slammed into a forested slope. Flames engulfed the fuselage. Smoke blackened the sky. Emergency crews rushed to the scene, but 12 people were already gone. What caused it? Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency later revealed a catastrophic failure in outdated hydraulic systems, lack of modern cockpit, alert systems, runway, maintenance delays. Despite repeated warnings, the Antonov An, first introduced in the 1960s, has been retired in most countries. But in remote parts of Russia, it still flies, patched together with aging Soviet-era parts. It's a tragedy waiting to happen. A former Angara mechanic told Commerson, "These planes are flying on borrowed time." Why it matters in a world of cutting-edge jets and automated safety systems. This crash was a reminder. Not all aviation is modern, and not every passenger gets the same level of safety. The victims weren't tourists or they were workers, mothers, fathers, children, and they paid the price for flying on a 60-year-old plane that should have been retired long ago. An incident rooted in neglect, old machines, and forgotten people. Unless aging aircraft are grounded worldwide, it won't be the last. On January 23, 2021, in Ahmedabad, India, Air India Flight AI171 was preparing for its departure to London when a routine procedure turned into a moment of confusion that could have ended in tragedy. The aircraft, a Boeing 787, was sitting on the tarmac at Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport. As the crew went through the pre-takeoff checklist, something went wrong. The aircraft's left engine refused to start. The problem? A switch. A simple, small switch, misused at the worst possible moment. Instead of flipping the fuel control switch from cutoff to run, the crew left it in the wrong position. The engine wasn't getting fuel, but rather than clearly identifying the error, the cockpit crew began troubleshooting other areas, believing it to be an external or system-level fault. This led to more delays, more confusion, more miscommunication between the pilots and the ground engineers. And here's the dangerous part. The crew attempted to start the engine multiple times without properly resetting the fuel switch. Each failed attempt added more unburnt fuel into the engine's combustion chamber. And with each try, the risk of a fire increased. Inside the cockpit, stress was rising. Outside, the passengers had no idea what was unfolding. According to post-incident reports, the error wasn't about a faulty part or a system failure. It was human factors, an incorrect assumption, a lack of cross-verification, and a failure to follow standard procedure. This incident was caught and controlled in time. No lives were lost, but the event highlighted something critical. Modern aircraft are full of automation, but one overlooked switch, paired with human stress, can still trigger chaos. According to the field guide to understanding human error, even trained professionals can fall into tunnel vision under stress. We stop seeing the obvious, we fixate, we assume, we override instinct. And when that happens in aviation, the consequences can be fatal. Flight AI171's near disaster is a reminder that even in the most advanced machines, it's not always the tech that fails, it's the mind interpreting it. As airports get busier and aircraft more complex, the margin for error becomes razor thin. It's not just about flying a plane. It's about flying your mind with clarity, awareness, and discipline. Because sometimes, survival comes down to a single switch. Behind every crash, every fire, every near miss, there's a pattern. It's rarely one big mistake. It's usually a series of small ones. Overlooked warnings, misjudged timings, human assumptions, system flaws. Let's talk about what really causes most aviation incidents. The first one is maintenance failure. Aircraft today are highly complex, but they rely on meticulous upkeep. Miss one inspection, skip one tiny crack, ignore one pressure reading, and the machine becomes a risk. In developing countries especially, aging fleets are still in service because budgets are tight and parts are expensive. But mechanical decay doesn't negotiate. A worn tire, a cracked fan blade, a corroded wire. Small issues until they become headlines. Next, pilot error. Not out of incompetence, but out of stress, fatigue, or miscommunication. In fast-changing situations, even the most experienced pilots can misread data or forget checklists. Many accidents show that communication inside the cockpit breaks down under pressure, not because they don't know the protocol, but because the brain freezes under noise. According to the Human Factors Analysis and Classification System, over 70% of aviation incidents involve some form of crew-related error. Then there's air traffic control, often overlooked, but critical. One delayed clearance. Aviation doesn't forgive mistakes, but it does leave clues. In wreckage, in black boxers, in patterns. And the world has learned to listen, slowly, often, too late, but still, it listens. Every incident you've seen in this series, was IT just a story? It was a signal. So now the question is, what are we doing about it? Let's start with airport safety protocols. After every major crash, airports update their emergency response plans. Firefighting teams are now trained to respond within 3 minutes of any incident on the runway. Modern airports have emergency slides, foam trucks, and specialized trauma units ready for deployment, but not all airports are equal. Smaller regional hubs, especially in developing countries, often lack the equipment or training to respond to large-scale disasters. And when seconds matter, gaps like these turn survivable situations into deadly ones. Next, airline policies. Major carriers are investing in simulator-based pilot training, not just for procedures, but for crisis scenarios. Pilots now rehearse engine fires, cockpit smoke, hydraulic failures, even total system loss. The goal is to train calm under pressure, to override fear with instinct. But again, not all airlines can afford this. Budget carriers sometimes cut corners. Fewer training hours, cheaper maintenance contracts, reused parts, and when margins become more important than safety, the risk travels with the passenger. Governments and aviation authorities have responded to. Regulations are stricter. Maintenance cycles are being shortened. Flight data recorders now store more information. The International Civil Aviation Organization continuously updates global standards. Planes are now built with stronger firewalls, smarter auto, and real-time monitoring systems that can flag issues before a human even notices. Still, Technology doesn't replace accountability, because for every system that works, there's still a person who must act, a decision that must be made, a checklist that must be followed. Let's not forget the passengers. Public awareness has quietly become a new layer of protection. Today, many travelers research aircraft types before flying. They learn how to identify exit rows. Some even check safety ratings of airlines, because they know not all flights are equal. And survivors, those who've lived through crashes, often say the same thing. I never thought it would happen to me. So don't just be a passenger. Be aware. Know your count the rows to the nearest exit. Read the safety card, not out of fear, but out of preparation. According to the FAA, passengers who act within the first 90 seconds of an emergency have the highest survival rate. That's not luck. That's awareness. Because in the end, safety isn't just a system, it's a culture. It's built step by step through attention, pressure, reform, and memory. And as we move forward into a faster, busier, more connected world, the skies will only grow more crowded. The question is, will our wisdom grow with them, or will we wait for the next tragedy to remind us?